What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we are reviewing and ranking Batman. Batman, released in 1966, directed by Leslie H. Martinson, the dynamic duo face four supervillains who plan to hold the world for ransom with the help of a secret invention that instantly dehydrates people. Let's get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. For what it was, the plot was pretty good. I mean, it was the same basic hero plot that a lot of movies have, which is the hero, or in this case, heroes, have to stop the villain, or in this case, villains, before they take over the world, do their evil plan, and they stop them in the end. That's really what a lot of superhero movies are. But this one was like, it was kind of confusing. I mean, I don't know if it's because it was from 1966, but it felt like I didn't even know the main plot that the villains had and what they were kind of looking to do until like halfway through the movie, maybe a little longer. I just really thought it was based off of the TV show and it was just another mission that they were going on. And I don't know, I was watching it, I was like, okay, it's just Batman and Robin taking on crime, even though it's this old style, very comic booky, bam, pow, thwap type stuff. But I was like, okay, it's not anything special. And then boom, all of a sudden, all of these villains are together and they're planning to take the world for ransom using this crazy, I don't even know how it would work, dehydration machine. And then at the end, it's just, oh, what do you know? Batman is the hero, like always. So, I don't know. It was a good plot. It felt stale to me. The second essential aspect is attraction. So as someone who's never watched this movie, I thought it was pretty interesting to see how the villains, Batman and Robin too, but especially the villains, how they dressed and how they acted compared to what I'm used to for the newer movies. And I mean, it was all pretty good. Joker was very, very comic book. Like, he was just comedic the whole time. He wasn't really like a Heath Ledger or a Joaquin Phoenix. And yes, when I did my Joker review, I was saying Joaquin the entire time. That's just because in my brain, I had Joakim Noah from the Bulls just in my head for no reason. But besides that point, I just feel like this Joker, this iteration of Joker was very, very comedic. He just wanted to laugh and make jokes, but it didn't really feel like Joker. It felt like this is just a comedian that has clown makeup on. And everyone else, I feel like all the costumes, including Joker's, looked good. But there was, for some reason, they all wore like the Riddler mask to hide their identity and conceal it. And I get that it's like, especially back in the 60s, it was like really heavy on like Superman, how you don't know that Clark Kent is Superman because he wears glasses. Like, that's the only thing concealing the identity. But in this, it felt very played out. Like, there was a point where Joker was wearing the mask and no one knew it was Joker. But it's clearly him because he's wearing the suit. He has green hair. He has white face paint. You can clearly tell it's Joker. He just has like a little purple thing covering like, what, a fifth of his face? And suddenly you don't know who it is at all. Like, zero recollection. That's kind of weird. I don't know. It really threw me off. I'm just like, there's no way. Batman's supposed to be a detective. There's no way he's this stupid, right? Because all his biggest enemies are just wearing a little mask. And they have no idea who it is. I don't know. It seemed crazy to me. But overall, as the entertainment-wise went for this movie, I knew that they wanted to be really comic booky with the bam, pow, thwap, like even things that showed up in some of the fight scenes. But, I mean, maybe choreograph it a little better. Because there was one scene where there was a sideways shot of Batman punching Joker. He was like this far away from him, and you can clearly tell. And Joker just fell down like a sack of bricks. Like, it was just so obvious a whiff, and then just all over, just like he got knocked out. It was so obvious from the camera point. I don't know if that was an accident and they were supposed to show it a different way so it actually looked like he got hit. But it was happening throughout a lot of the movies. That was just the more obvious one. You can tell that they're not actually getting hit. I feel like in a lot of newer Batman movies and newer just fighting movies in general, it looks like they got hit. Or they actually do get hit because you want it to be convincing. They did a really bad job of the convincing in this one. And I get it. It's 1966. There isn't like CGI or anything even invented yet. But, I mean, you don't know how to make a punch look realistic? I don't know. Just let me know. Is it because of the time period? Because I'm really lost. The third essential aspect is theme. I'm trying to come up with a theme, and I don't know what it would even be. I don't even know what would be a theme that's close enough to say. So I'm just going to say, I don't think there even is a theme. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. So the dialogue in this movie isn't anything special, but it's also not bad. I feel like the conversations felt real enough where it's not a big red flag, but it also isn't so good that it's even worth really talking about. So let's just move on again. The fifth essential aspect is acting. Now, the acting in this, for the time period, I really don't know. I've never watched any movies really from the 60s, so I don't know how acting was back then. But to me, it just felt overly comedic, way more comedic than it needs to be. Batman is not someone that's supposed to be cracking jokes consistently, like maybe a smirk here and maybe a joke there even, but for the most movie, he's supposed to be a serious dude. He is supposed to be in the shadows, kind of prowling on people. But no, instead, in this, he's deputized, so he's just a cop who gets to have his own helicopter and car and goofy little bat spray, like shark repellent and stuff. And I don't know. He's constantly trying to crack jokes. He's constantly being funny. He's doing this one shots. He's just, I don't know. It did not feel like Batman to me. I've seen good Batman iterations. It just, I don't know. I feel like a little bit the Lego Batman was better as a Batman than Adam West was. That might be weird for me to say. It kind of felt weird coming out of my mouth. But I don't know. I feel like Adam West's version of Batman is not the kind that I would like to watch on the big screen. I'm sure a lot of people liked it. I'm sure in 1966 it was awesome to see Batman on the big screen in general. But now, as someone who's seen all of these other movies, it's not something that I would want to rewatch, like, at all. And I'm not saying Adam West did a bad job as Batman, but he did do it. He did the job he was supposed to do. I just didn't like the job that he had to do. So I'm not going to say that he's bad at acting, because I like him as an actor. I don't know. It just really didn't hit for me. But Burgess Meredith, I believe his name is, as Penguin, honestly, I loved him as the Penguin. He had the laugh down perfectly. I loved the way that he sounded. I loved the way he dressed. And I'm pretty sure it was... Who played Penguin in the newer movies? Why am I blanking on this? Hold on. Danny DeVito. That's who played it. I feel like both of them did a really, really good job. I feel like Danny DeVito looked a little more like Penguin, height and shape-wise. But Burgess, I don't know, did the part a little better. I think he sounded perfect. He had the laugh down. He had the look down. So I feel like if they mixed, it'd be the perfect Penguin. But I don't know. I think he did a really good job. Adam West did what he was supposed to do. I just didn't like what he had to do. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. When it comes to how it looked, obviously nowadays, terrible. Back then, probably pretty good. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it was pretty good for back then. So I'll say that. But when it came to actually capturing emotion and trying to pull someone into the movie, that was not done well. I feel like even though it was Batman and it's a character that I love, I really would not care if anything happened in this movie. It just, I was interested in the concept and maybe like the plot a little bit and seeing all these villains and what they do for the first time, but I would never want to rewatch it. That's the only reason I really was hooked in this movie, is because it was the first time that I was watching it. So yeah, they didn't do a really good job hooking me with emotions. The wardrobe, I will give it a shout out for that, because the wardrobe actually was really good. I liked all the costumes. But when it came to actually capturing of emotions and look-wise, the seventh essential aspect is editing. So Batman is an hour and 45 minutes long. I mean, I probably would have been fine if it was a little shorter, because it did feel kind of like just a long episode of the TV show. I've never watched it, but it did feel TV show-esque. It felt like there was not really a good start or end to the movie. So it definitely could have been paced out a little better, especially towards the beginning and the most important parts, debatably, of a movie. But, I mean, an hour 45 is fine. It's not really pushing that 2-hour mark, but I think I would have liked it better like an hour and a half. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. So this I have to give credit to the movie for. The soundtrack was really good. I loved the OG Batman theme. I thought it fit really, really well. The actual intro credits with that theme was an amazing start to the movie. And then throughout the movie, it did have really good sounds in the background, not just the bow pop ones, but actual sounds in the background to show intensity and try and show emotion. So overall, I think the soundtrack was really good for what it was. The ninth essential aspect is directing. So the director of this movie is Leslie H. Martinson, and it was his job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And I think back then, it's definitely a movie worth watching. And you know what, even now, it's definitely a movie worth watching because it's the first Batman movie. If it wasn't the first Batman movie, I would not want to rewatch it. I still don't want to rewatch it, even though it's Batman, the first Batman movie. It's just one and done. I watched it. Cool. I can say that I watched the first ever Batman movie ever released, the first ever DC movie ever released. But after that, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot stick. So the movie itself back then could have been a banger, could have been really, really good. Based off of the reviews, it was really, really good. But to me, I don't know. I feel like he didn't really do what I hoped he would have, what I hoped I would have seen when I watched this movie. But either way, he has previously directed 7 movies. I mean, he overall directed like 100-something. I don't know, 100-something movies, but TV shows and everything. The list was insane. I had to scroll through that just to find the movies he did before Batman. But yeah, 7 previous movies, and they were The Atomic Kid, Hot Rod Girl, Hot Rod Rumble, Lad, a Dog, Black Gold, PT 109, and For Those Who Think Young. Obviously, I've never heard of any of these movies because most of them are before 1955, like 1950. They're just really old movies. And I really don't even know how to judge it based off of it. So I think this section's over. And the 10th essential aspect is time. Now, if I didn't make it obvious already, the one thing that would make this stand the test of time is that it's the first DC movie, the first Batman movie. It's a good watch if you want to see where it all started. But if you've seen it, you should never need to rewatch it again. It is not a good enough movie to want it to have that rewatchability unless you really like that old style bam, pop, pow, comic book type movie. Then it could be for you. Me personally, maybe I'd rewatch it once in my life ever again, and that's just because I want to be reminded of it. But besides that, I don't think it stood the test of time. Now, onto the reviews. Now, these reviews are way higher than I thought they would be going into it, but I understand why. Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it an 81%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it a 62%, and IMDb gave it a 65%. Now, 81%, that's the critics, and I'm assuming that they're judging it based off of the time period. That would make a lot more sense than coming from me, who wasn't alive during that time period, didn't know how it was like when it first came out. That makes sense, but to me, it's definitely not there, so let's just get that out of there. And 65 and 62, that makes more sense to me. I still am going to put it a little lower just because I didn't enjoy myself watching it. I feel like it didn't do a job of a movie, and that's to hook you and want you to keep watching it and really get invested in it. And yes, I'm going to say it one more time. I feel like it is just because of the time period. I had no experience. I have no idea what movies were like watching it back in the day. This could have been the best movie of a few decades back then. But now, all the movies that I've seen, there's a lot of competition. So, I don't know. I personally would not put it even in the 60s. I probably would put it at maybe like mid at the 50s or maybe even 40s. I don't know. I just personally really didn't enjoy it. And finally, the rankings. So this is going to be a pretty quick ranking session because, of course, it is the first movie in the 60s that I've done. So where will Batman rank in its year, decade, and in all time? Let's find out, starting with 1966. It's going to be first. It is the only movie I have done in that year. So I don't really have much to talk about, do I? And in the 1960s, it's going to be the same thing. First, only movie I've done in the 60s. I do want to kind of get a few more in here. I want to have at least 10 in each decade. So when I do a movie, comparing it makes sense because there's actually something to compare it to. But now in all time, it's going to be 32nd, above Howard the Duck and below SWAT Firefighter. Now, it's above Howard the Duck because both do something similar. They both do a really comic booky version of the character. And Howard the Duck was in 1982 or no 1986. It's in the 80s, and there was a little bit more film development since then. But I don't know. I feel like Batman actually did a better job than Howard the Duck when it came to matching what the character should have been on the big screen, especially for the first time. And if I had to rewatch one of these, I would rewatch Batman, to be honest, because I love the characters, I love the costume. I just think the plot is very basic, and just the way that it's filmed is a little wonky for me. But I do enjoy the plot much more than Howard the Duck, and there's just more characters to love in that movie. And in SWAT Firefight, I really, honestly, I don't like that movie, SWAT Firefight. This was harder for me. I was considering putting it above SWAT Firefight. But that's just because the decisions that they made in the plot, the decisions they made towards the end of the movie, in particular for SWAT Firefight. I thought the rest of the movie, the concept was really cool. I loved the acting in it. I loved just what they actually showed and how realistic everything looked. And I just think that concept itself and just the cinematography kind of got me over the edge of definitely saying that this is better than Batman. But this one was close. I feel like it would not be, I don't think it would be a surprise if in the future I'm like, you know what? I'll move it above SWAT Firefight. That wouldn't really be a surprise to me. That's how close they are. But it's definitely above Howard the Duck. That's all I have for Batman. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. I'm sorry for crapping all over this movie if you really love it. It's just me. I don't know. Again, with the old times, I just think nowadays they make so many good movies, it's hard to compare it to new ones, but we'll see once I do more from the 60s. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Peace out.